Good afternoon to those who listen. It's Agnieszka Justitia, the first of Honestia. Agnieszka Rojek, the daughter of Barbara, Jadwiga's daughter, Anna's sister, and Bronisław Rojek. This is the second part of my royal speech, the major royal speech devoted to our times. It's been a long time since I prepared such long speeches, but the times are what they are, and apart from the times being what they are, my situation is peculiar. I believe this awareness I have now creates the situation of no return. Not in the sense of no return to life, because I'm a spiritual being. I don't know what's going to happen and where I'm going to be, but I'm pretty certain that as a spirit I will be alive, which is pretty scary considering the overall conditions around me. But I cannot look at people as I used to, or even not as I used to, but just look at them and not be aware of how hateful, how contemptible they are. All the same, there is the life and the work one has been doing all his or her life. And the speeches, my speeches, rather than anyone else's speeches, are obviously the outcome. So let me present the second part of this huge, groundbreaking speech, even if you do not consider it groundbreaking. For me, it truly is. Let's start. Ladies and gentlemen, time to resume my speech against what I shall call life circumstances. Atrocious, broadly speaking. The resumption today follows the anniversary of the deadly attack on my life in 2016, around the 15th of March. From a healthy, fit, beautiful woman with wonderful prospects, I changed into an invalid, unable to walk the street and participate in social life, gaining weight practically every day. The ugliness on the face was added later. Today, when I look in the mirror, I feel pity for myself. The face does not look too bad, but so far from the beauty I used to be, and the body is disgusting, just unbearable. Only the inner beauty is kept, is left, and the brains. Me presenting the speech and you listening to it, have traveled through the Faculty of Fine Literature and Arts and the Faculty of Superb Education, two representative faculties of my Honestian Academy. I have made you familiar with my overall thinking on the issues at the core, and my specific paradigm for the cognitive pursuits and education, the quest for knowledge, the quest for the truth, the quest for the godly. The Honestian paradigm. Today we take the trip to other faculties. The guiding idea for the Faculty of Law is the state of law, the key concept spiritual rights. I do not recall my reading Thomas Paine, although I do recall me taking long notes, and the long notes of copied paragraphs. But I know the idea of the human rights started with the natural law, which places the beginnings of these other laws against the laws organizing order and hierarchies in the spiritual law. The essential rights the human being has are provided by all religious orders, either directly or by implication. Christians are given a peaceful place, ever fresh food, a lot of rest, apart from the duty of taking care of the Edenic garden, which, to a huge degree, takes care of itself, for God created it that way. They even have immortality. It is their breaking the God's law, rather than an act of disobedience, that results in the banishment and other punishments, toil, pain, and suffering, and no presence of God, as it used to be. It is important to see the difference and be precise about it. The first parents broke the law of God. I think the church is at the political service when they speak of disobedience. The first sin that cost our parents the loss of immortality and the paradise on earth is them breaking the God's law. It can be worthwhile to take a closer look at the Ten Commandments and see the natural law, the rights of man implied in the law given by God. You shall have no gods except me. You shall not utter the name of Yahweh, your God, to misuse it. Remember the Sabbath day and keep it holy. Honor your father and your mother. You shall not kill. You shall not commit adultery. You shall not steal. You shall not bear false witness against your neighbor. You shall not covet your neighbor's house. You shall not covet your neighbor's wife or anything that is his. These are the 10 Commandments I got in the Baha'i temple near Chicago. They sound similar to the ones I learned before my first Holy Communion as a member of the Roman Catholic Church. If we check Exodus and Deuteronomy, we shall arrive at the long second commandment concerning images, or whatever likeness of anything in heaven, earth, or what, bowing down ourselves to these, or serving them. It also specifies the conditions of God's attitudes, depending on man's attitudes, hatred or love. The hereditary guilt and the necessity of living by the commandments. It is but one tradition, but let us have a closer look. The first commandments concern man's relation with God. God's rights first, man's rights implied. Man can have a relation to God. Man can love God and expect His mercy. Man can address God. In other words, after those relations with God, we arrive at the commandments that regulate social life. Oh, excuse me. Without the in other words. So after the commandments concerning man's relation with God, that is God's rights first, man's rights implied, the commandments regulate social life. 1. People and animals have the right to rest after work, and the day of rest is holy. 2. Parents are to be honored. 3. People and animals have the right to live. And animals with a question mark. It's not that obvious, but one can kill people and one can kill animals. The animals are mentioned in other commandments, so by implication we can extend the commandment to imply animals too, especially in the context of the creation of the order in Eden, where Adam and Eve were to feed on plants, not on animals. 4. Spouses have the right to exclusiveness. 5. People have the right of ownership. 6. Neighbors have the right to the truth concerning themselves. 7. The right of ownership includes full freedom from intrusion, even by as much as a wishful thought of a takeover by someone else. From that tradition, we get the following implied spiritual rights. 0. Man can be free from Egypt. There can be more to it than we normally assume. One, man can have a relation with God, which is human, emotions, and direct, addresses. 2. Man can work and rest. Animals can work and rest. 3. Man can have parents. 4. Man can live. Possible implication: animals can live. 5. Man can have a sexual life that is exclusive. 6. Man can own things. 7. Man can live in the truthful repute in the community. 8. Man can live free from any thought of anyone depriving him of what is his. To rephrase it once more, the rightfulness covers the following aspects of life. The man is born. He loves God and addresses Him properly. He grows up working and resting, honoring his parents, earning his reputation. He acquires possessions. He gets married. His sex life is exclusive. And the course of life continues with him giving birth to man, who gets born, loves God, and addresses Him properly, grows up working and resting, honoring his parents, acquiring possessions, getting married with the exclusive sex life. To continue the course of life taken over by his offspring in the law of God. These are non-negotiable. These are basic spiritual rights in the creed. These elaborations would not be necessary if it were not for the extent of humankind's violation of the fundamental spiritual rights. The state of law, understood as both the presence of law in daily life in practical terms, such conditions of life where the law is respected, where people can feel safe, and a political entity that holds the law as the sole regulator of the citizens' life conditions. The opposite could be an introduction of the law of the jungle, which is represented by the concept of the survival of the fittest, for instance. In the Honestian thinking, the creation of the law starts with the fundamental guarantee of the spiritual rights. There can exist no law that does not have these as the conditio sine qua non. Of course, it assumes the spiritual ontology. The Faculty of Histories is created around the guiding idea of the spiritual history of humankind. And the key concept is extraterrestrial presence. Ontology is all important again. The essence of humankind is our spirituality. We are spiritual beings. The further assumption is we are not the only spiritual beings in the vast universe, the cosmic space, the universe of universes, as I like to say, thinking of it. The cosmic space, the universe of universes, as I like to say, thinking of it as the vastness of vastnesses. At the beginning there was God, and God created the planet Earth, of which we have been given an account in the Bible. Still, it is a safe assumption that apart from the planet Earth and our Earthian life, God created other planets with the life of their own, and perhaps not only planets. Spiritual life is not limited to the planet Earth. Our basic nature is spiritual. So the extraterrestrial spiritual life is not alien in the essence. I believe the spiritual life in the outer space is more advanced or powerful than we are, which is why they visit us and have an impact on the development of human history, and not the other way around. Although I do consider it possible that we, the Earthians, could or might have an impact on the development of extraterrestrial life in more ways than by our demolition of the cosmic harmony in an act of nuclear explosions on Earth, or an act of introducing a devastating rhythm into the global space arrangement of waves and particles or other energy phenomena. I can imagine Earthians solving their own problems, effecting a change on a different planet, correlated with our spirituality. The essence is the priority of the spiritual over the physical, because this is the order of creation in the universe. First there was God. Whatever stories have been developed afterwards, whatever stories we have been told afterwards, I view the development of life on the planet Earth in all terms, politics being one of the lines only, as a consequence of the spiritual life of the respective beings, the Earthians, with possible interferences by the extraterrestrial life viewed as the spiritual presence from the outer space. Our neighbors in the vast universe or someone from a real far away. Spiritual communications and activity do not require a physical connection, though at the current level of life we seem to be quite not in the condition to imagine a communication without a physical form. Even the word imagine has an image in it. How does it relate to standard courses in history? It subverts the order. History presupposes chronology, but it is quite possible that the French Revolution was a transient presence of the enemy to monarchies far away, and it just dropped in. The net, leaving the mess to the Earthians, still incapable of perceiving the foreign presence, thinking it a linear development of the human story, consistent with what had been before and what has been since. To reverse the perspective, we could envisage a duel between the king of Arabia and the king of Amazonia, taking place on the 7th moon. The king of Amazonia coveted the king of Arabia's wife. They had to fight, but they wanted to keep the whole thing secret. No need to offend decency. The Faculty of Natural and Supernatural Sciences works with the Faculty of Astronomy, Astrology and Extraterrestrial Life. However, they are kept separate for cognitive reasons. One area concerns the earthling, the other the unknown, out there, possibly requiring a totally different mindset or cognitive abilities, which is why the guiding idea for the latter is the heed, and the key concept, what we are given to know. The heed is the attitude and life of attentiveness, actually believing the extraterrestrial life can communicate to us in ways we are not likely to observe as an extraterrestrial communication. Phenomena we are familiar with can speak the language we are quite unfamiliar with. The heat implies the possibility of there being more, much more, than there seems, of things having an extraterrestrial authorship. It still assumes that first there is God. It also assumes the free choice on the part of other beings, for we have been acquainted with the idea of the free choice, independent of the omnipresent, omnipotent, and omniscient. In the word of God given to Earthians, people can have the free will. The existence of the idea implies extraterrestrials can have the free will, or not. We know what we are given to know. The Earthian seems simpler and more commandable, but still poses complex questions. The guiding idea for the Faculty of Natural and Supernatural Sciences is the duality. By the Earthian, I mean this faculty, as different from the Faculty of Astronomy, Astrology and Extraterrestrial Life, which has to do with the extraterrestrial. So the Earthian seems simpler and more commandable, but still poses complex questions. The guiding idea for the Faculty of Natural and Supernatural Sciences is the duality, the spiritual and the physical. The key concept, differentiation between the two. Apart from the practical daily life, we naturally think of religions. The area of the sacred, has been being created from both the spiritual and the physical. And it is all important to know what belongs where. For instance, the life of Jesus Christ comes from God. We believe it was the life of God on the earth. The particular activity day by day was a physical form to the spiritual of the divine nature. The priest-pedophile activity is the perverted spiritual in the sacred. What I am saying is that the differentiation as a viewpoint changes perception of life qualitatively. Psychology at the start looked for the essence. In the spiritual ontology, the essence is the spirit. What has happened in the course of its development? What has happened in the course of its development? Has the science been perverted? To what degree? Are we still dealing with scientific truths, where the scientific pursuit consists in the quest started to arrive at understanding and knowledge, the truth being the Holy Grail? The journey, a discovery? Or are we dealing with scientific untruths, where the scientific pursuit consists in the quest started to arrive at the postulated an actualization of a vision, the final product being the holy lamp for consumption. The journey not a discovery, but a creation. The whole scientific field busy with great battles of perversion, further from the truth of life, with every new development of science, new adepts, incapable of thinking a thought that could be bridged with the real life from the times before the great perversion changed human capacity to arrive at the truth forever. Or so it appears to the overruling great change leaders. How many people do believe people are programs, or digital at least? The lowest cognitive negotiation point would probably be, well, I am not sure of the real nature of life, but all the spiritual nature speak is the former ideology turned into a common delusion. Some of illusions were deadly, some innocent. All in all, the modern man's relation to the earthly and human life will be becoming analogous to the human relation to the extraterrestrial life. They might one day think of the heat and hope for what they will be given to know. We have entered the era of regress, probably in punishment for our moral self-degradation. The Honestian Academy is still at the advantage of pure awareness. There is the spiritual and the physical. It is essential to differentiate between the two. The faculty of health and beauty represents the ontology consistent with all other areas of academic or life pursuits in the noble kingdom of honesty. Thus, the guiding idea is that of the spiritual origin. The key concept, the spirit creating life on earth. If we juxtapose the faculty with the faculty of histories, we can see that this faculty is looking for possible solutions, while the faculty of histories describes the spiritual story of humankind. While the faculty of fine literature and arts focuses on literary and artistic expressions of the spirit only, having its preferences, but not restricting itself solely to what is beautiful and healthy. This faculty has a broader range of life in its focus, and accents the beautiful and healthy in spiritual terms. Let us consider the Holy Gospel. As fine literature and arts, the Gospel reveals particular apostles passing on the Word of God out of their own realities. The superb education would analyze it in the framework of the Honestian paradigm. The law would work on pinpointing the spiritual rights and building a legal order on the fundamentals. The histories would put it in the chronology of human spirituality, viewing it in the context of Judaism on the one hand, the Roman Empire on the other, but also from the perspective of the spiritual map of the earth at the time, and do it with an attention to the possibility of some cosmic religious families or tribes existing in the vast universe. The natural and supernatural sciences would direct excuse me, some confusion here. The natural and supernatural sciences would dissect mentally and intellectually, of course, the narrated events and the very words passed on. I need to change the speech a bit because I cannot read myself here. So they would dissect, the natural and supernatural sciences would dissect mentally and intellectually, of course, narrated events, and their words passed on. Perhaps dissect, checking if they should dissect anything else as well. Landscapes, family relations, the kind of food, the shape of the artifacts, the weather conditions, and so on. Differentiating between the human factor and the divine in the Gospel, to start with. Astronomy, Astrology and Extraterrestrial Life would heed to what is happening at the time when I am reading the Gospel, and note whatever surfaces in my awareness that had not surfaced there yet, in humble readiness to receive possible communications pertaining to the text read or events presented in the text. Events and people presented in the text. The health and beauty would focus on the spiritual health and beauty that the Gospel captures and opens. The Gospel rather than anything else, for it is an expression of the Spirit creating the life on earth. What would happen when the Gospel went for study in the Faculty of Finance? The guiding idea here is new finance, the key concept, new value. These have not been defined yet, but preparing the speech certainly gives an occasion to consider these seriously. For a start, we go back in time to the time when there was no finance. Shockingly enough, when I checked the etymology of the word finance, I experienced a shift of attention. In our thinking nowadays, finance has to do with what we are doing in the present time to arrive at some future. However, the key idea in the derivation is not a start, it is an end, which implies that finance has to do with a past. From the 14th century, we have such notions as end, settlement, payment. In the 15th century, supply, stock, tax, taxation. The 17th century, pecuniary resources, management of money, management of public money. From fine, make an end, settle, procure. From fin, offend, end, the Latin finis. The search for the new finance, the new value is open. As for the Gospel, should it be viewed properly in the Honestian Faculty of Finance? The central question would probably concern the gods, death, settlement. Can it redeem from the sins committed afterwards? Any terms and conditions we might be not aware of. Thank you for your attention. Agnieszka Justitia, the first of Honestia, the noble queen, the guardianess of truth and justice, the protectress of the pure value, Agni Polis, the 18th of March 2020.